Okay, I'm here in percent number 2, Google form. When finding the percent change, you take the amount of change and divide it by the original amount and then multiply by 100 since percent is out of 100. To find the amount of change, you take the greater value minus the lesser value. So here in number 1, we have the number 8 increased to number 22. And so we want to know, what is the percent change from 8 to 22? Okay, so let's follow this right here. If I want the percent change, I'm going to take the amount of change and divide it by the original amount. So the amount of change, I take my greater value, which in this case would be 22. I subtract my lesser value, which would be 8. Okay, I know 22 minus 8 is 14. So this is my amount of change. My amount of change is 14, right? From 8 to 22, that's 14. So I take that amount of change and I divide it. That's what the horizontal fraction bar means. I divide it by the original amount. Since I started with 8, 8 is my original amount. So that's what I divide 14 by. Take the amount of change, 14, divide by the original amount, and then multiply by 100 since percent is out of 100. So 14 divided by 8 times 100 is going to give me 175. And so in here, I would type 175 and then put the percent sign. Okay, the percent sign is shift and the number 5 key. That's how you do a percent sign, 175%. And then I'll type the word increase, right? Because this is an increase. If I'm going from 8 to 22, I am increasing by 175%. Go to number 3. Number 3 says 64 is decreased to 48. Okay, so I know that my answer right now is going to be some amount, some percentage decrease, right? Because my numbers are going down. So let's first find the amount of change. The amount of change, remember, is equal to the greater value minus the lesser value. So my greater value is 64 minus the lesser value of 48. 64 minus 48, that is 16, right? So 16 is my amount of change. I take that amount of change and I divide by the original amount. And my original amount was 64. So 16 divided by 64, and then I multiply by 100 because percent is out of 100. And so once I take 16 and divide by 64 in my calculator and then multiply by 100, I will get 25, right? So this is a 25% increase or decrease? Decrease, right? Because I'm going down. So this is a 25% decrease. Be sure you put decrease in that text box. 25% decrease. Go to number 5. 7 is increased to 21. Okay, so first find your amount of change. Your amount of change would be 21, your larger number, minus the smaller number of 7. And 21 minus 7 is 14. So 14 is your amount of change. And you divide that by the original amount. You started with 7. So 7 is your original amount. 14 divided by 7, you know that's 2. But remember, you got to multiply by 100 because percent is out of 100. So percent, amount of change, 14, divided by original amount of 7, multiplied by 100 to get your percentage of 200%. Right? 14 divided by 7 is 2. 2 times 100. 2 times 100 is 200, and this is percent increase. Say 200% increase. Okay, number 7 says from 80 pencils to 152 pencils. So first find your amount of change, right? You've gone from 80 to 152. So take your larger number, 152, minus your smaller number of 80. And 152 minus 80 will give you 72. Okay, so that is your amount of change. You take your amount of change and divide by the original amount. You started with 80, so 80 is your original amount. And then you multiply by 100 because percent is out of 100. So 72 divided by 80 times 100 will give you 90, right? This is 90%. And is this increase or decrease? It's increase, right? If you're going from 80 to 152, that means you're increasing. So this is a 90% increase. Number 9, from $60 to $40. So first find your amount of change, which would be the larger number 60 minus the smaller number of 40. And you know 60 minus 40 is 20. Okay, you divide that by the original amount. The original amount is 60, right? That's what you started with. So 20 divided by 60, and then multiply by 100 because percent is out of 100. Okay, now when you do that, you're going to get 33.3, and it's repeating, 33.3 repeating percent. But notice here it says round to the nearest percent. Okay, so the nearest percent, is this percentage closer to 33% or closer to 34%? Well, you would say 33%, right? Because of that 3 right there in the tenths place. That does not tell you to round up. It tells you to keep this 3 right here the same. So it's 33%. That is the nearest percent. And is this an increase or a decrease? If I'm going from 60 to 40, well, I'm going down, right? So it's a 33% decrease. Okay, number 11 here, the population of a town went from 12,500 to 13,900 in 10 years. What was the percent of change to the nearest whole percent? Okay, so let's first find the amount of change. So larger number, 13,900, minus the smaller number of 12,500. Okay, this would give me the amount of change, which looks like 1,400, right? So I take my amount of change, 1,400, and I divide by the original amount. The original amount was this, 12,500. 12,500. Okay, so amount of change divided by original amount times 100, and that would give me my percentage. So I put that in my calculator, 1,400 divided by 12,500 times 100 equals 11.2. 11.2. Now, is this an increase or a decrease? Think about it here. If you go from 12,500 to 13,900, that's an increase, right? So 11.2% increase. Okay, last one here, number 12. Heidi moved to a house that is 55 miles away from her workplace to a house that is 28 miles away from her workplace. What is the percent decrease in the distance from her home to her workplace? Round your answer to the nearest percent. So what is the amount of change from 55 to 28? Well, 55 minus 28 is 27, right? So 27 is the amount of change. Let's divide that by the original amount. Originally, she was 55 miles from her workplace. So 27 divided by 55, and then multiplied by 100 because percent is out of 100. So 27 divided by 55 times 100. And notice it says round your answer to the nearest percent. So in my calculator, I get 49.0909091. And so to the nearest percentage, this would round to 49%, right? And of course, this would be a decrease because she's gone from 55 miles away to 28 miles away. So 49% decrease. Okay, you try the other ones. Once you submit, view your score. And if you miss any, click edit your response to fix the ones that you missed so that eventually you get every problem correct. So that eventually you get a 12 out of 12.